Professor Project Squad. How's it going? Brent Fikowski here. Still traveling around, keeping busy. I haven't been making these videos. I've been busy, but I've been making sure everything's been running online, keeping the programming updated, answering the questions when I can in between, but just haven't made one of these videos. So I'm going to do this video. It's just going to be a little bit of a competition recap from the Egypt competition. So it was a lot of fun. I was able to secure the win at the Egyptian competition. It wasn't the most competitive field I've been in compared to some of the other competitions I've done the last few years relative to my own abilities, but was still challenging and still pushed myself. And my big goal was to kind of use it as a bit of a tune-up for Dubai. It's about a month before Dubai, so get over here, get used to the time change, get used to the weather, a little warmer here, and just hit the workouts as hard as I could, going with some aggressive strategies, sometimes a little more aggressive than I might usually do in a competition, and just kind of see where my fitness is at. Use that as sort of a little bit of a springboard leading into Dubai. That was sort of the goal, and I feel like I achieved that. I feel like more or less my fitness was where I thought it was. A little better in some places, a little worse than others, but overall pretty good. Weekend started a little rough with a trail run, kind of up some hills and back down. My stomach was growling, not feeling so great after some local food that I had. And what's funny is, I'm usually very, very strict with what I eat when I go somewhere new. I'm usually just making sure we have a place with a kitchen, cooking our own food. But like I said, wasn't taking this competition as seriously in some ways. And so, the preparation for the competition was a little less than ideal. And with that laziness came a consequence. And I always tell people, you're, extreme ownership, every little detail, everything's your fault. Everything that happens at a competition, it's up to you to be prepared for it and have a solution. My preparation was less than ideal, and I paid the price. I had to vomit halfway through the run and finish the run. But interesting experience nonetheless. Realized that I could still run pretty hard with an upset stomach and run even faster when I felt a little better after the halfway mark. So for the rest of the weekend was dealing a little bit with stomach ache, but nothing too terrible. And luckily, most of the workouts, I think if there were some workouts that were really, really grueling, like 10-minute, 20-minute chipper that was just really aerobic and grinding, I might have been in a worse spot in some of those events. But luckily, that didn't happen. Some of the other events, we've been, as you've been seeing in the program, we've been doing lots of EMOMs with ring muscle ups and double unders and jump rope. And sure enough, there was a workout that was basically an EMOM of those two movements. So that paid off really well. It doesn't always happen that way, but I was able to win that workout, which was fun. Been doing all that strict gymnastics work. We've been doing those big days with the strict pressing and the holds and the one arm holds and all that stuff, and the strict pull-ups really paid off. We did a lateral or a horizontal pegboard, so instead of going up the pegboard was like this along the rig, and you had to go side to side. And so all that strict work really paid off, and I was able to win that workout by a pretty big margin against second and even bigger against third. So I was happy with that. Was happy to see the training pay off in that way. After the competition, I've been talking to, people have been asking me a lot of questions at the gym, and someone was sort of asking about like high intensity, and they're like, oh, I see you're doing the strength work, I see you're doing the gymnastics work, but when do you really like kind of get rid of that and start focusing on the high intensity stuff? And I said, well, most competitions you go to, like, yes, they're high intensity, but usually, if you go to a competition with 8 workouts, usually 3 or 4 of them are more so a test of skill or a strength, right? So that's sometimes almost half the competition is a skill or a strength test. And something like the Open is usually a little higher intensity, but even the quarterfinals, obviously there was the one strength test, and then one of the workouts was very, the handstand push-up workout was more so about how strong were your handstand push-ups. Even the ring muscle-up workout was almost a little more high skill than, it was pistols, ring muscle-ups, GHD sit-ups. So, you can't neglect that training. And so I'm glad we've been doing more of that and not just high intensity, CrossFit, kind of classic CrossFit workouts, because there's often more to it than that. It was able, there was a workout with some shuttle runs on the turf. So it was nice that, been working a little bit on those drills with, the single leg agility drills. Felt pretty athletic, moving back and forth there. No deadlifts, even though we've been deadlifting a lot. But my power clean felt strong. The pull off the floor felt pretty strong, which obviously came from all the work we've been doing on the deadlift. And was the other thing I was happy with? Pistols were pretty good. Definitely still need to just get fitter at sort of the high rep body weight stuff. There's a workout with burpees and pistols and handstand walks, and wasn't terrible, but definitely kind of finished feeling like, that's got to be faster. I finished third in that workout, and feel like if that was at semifinals, it would have been more like 12th or 15th. So feel like that needs to, continue to work on that body weight stuff, and just, high rep air squats, high rep pistols, high rep burpees, chest to bars, that kind of thing, those simple body weight movements over and over again. But yeah, overall it was a lot of fun. It was definitely a couple long days, and something that I think a good thing to remember is CrossFit competitions are crazy, right? Event organization is a challenging thing, and so the event itself was well run, as well as any competition is, but they're always crazy, right? They run a little early, they run a little late. You have to warm up, and then there's a long marshalling time, sometimes 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes before you take the floor. And that's just something to get used to. And so for the clean event, I did my last clean at 300 pounds or 130 kilos, and then it was 20 minutes before I took the floor, and then had to max out, only had 2 attempts. So it's important that you sometimes prepare yourself for that in training, whether it's taking longer breaks between sets, and then when you go to a competition, just being mentally prepared for that, and finding a way to stay warm, whether it's wearing a hoodie, wearing some long sweatpants, doing some jumping jacks, doing some air squats, doing some high box jumps, doing whatever you can, some tuck jumps in the back to make sure you're raring to go, so when you hit that first lift, it's not a big shock. And fortunate that I've had a lot of years of doing that, and so you start to get used to it, but definitely threw some people for a loop, and they struggled through that. Was really enjoyed the last event, had a bit of a points lead, and so really went as fast as I could, and sort of just to see what would happen. And sure enough, I failed the last lift, which was frustrating, but I'm glad I went for it, and I kind of went past that line, and failed this last squat snatch at 100 kilo or 220 pounds. Whereas usually in a competition, maybe I would have waited a few more seconds to grab the bar, make sure I was ready. This time I said, I don't feel ready, but let's grab it anyway, see what happens. And sure enough, my instincts were correct. So, good reminder for myself that my instincts are usually correct, but it's good to often push those limits, and in your own training, remember to push the limits every now and again, not every day, but every couple of weeks, and make sure that your intuition matches what is actually happening. So overall, really enjoyed the competition. They're busy days, took, 100, 150 selfies a day, maybe more. Not a lot of escape from the fans, but, it was fun. It was cool to see people from all over the world that were excited to meet me and, ask me questions. And some people had some really great questions, and, were really hungry for more knowledge. And so for those of you on the Professor Project, a lot of that knowledge is online. I had these conversations with people, and they said, where do I get more information? And I said, well, if you want to pay on the Professor Project, that's what we have, right? We have, the conversation I just had with you for 10 minutes in the warm-up area at LFit, I have 200 videos like that discussing, competition strategy, techniques, mental preparation, nutrition, whatever it is, kind of just covering everything I know. At least, more or less the 90% of what I know, the basics. And, if you can apply those things, you're probably going to learn and figure out the other 10% on your own, or, even a different 10% that you need to know that I don't need to know. But yeah, it was really fun getting to, be here in a place where maybe CrossFit isn't quite as, as matured as it is in some places in North America. And people here are just so excited, and, kind of, reinvigorated my love for the sport a bit too, and it's really exciting to see people who want to get better and who love to train. So anyway, overall, really fun competition. Felt like I learned a few small things. Definitely feel like I'm on the right track, and starting to get excited for Dubai. Training's been going pretty well. Getting another good 2-3 weeks here training leading into Dubai, and hopefully things go well there too, and looking forward to competing back in Dubai. So hopefully this video is finding you well, and you've been enjoying the Professor Project programming. We'll be in touch.